welcome.
That peaked really loud.
To Unnecessary Roughness, Barstool's college football show, brought to you by High Noon Hard Seltzer. Before we get to the ad, Liam Blutman pulled me aside in the hallway today and said, Brandon, can I have 1 minute at the top of the show to address something? So, Blutman, the floor is yours.
What do you want me to address?
He passionately pulled me aside and said, Brandon, I have something I have to get off my chest right at the top of Unnecessary Roughness. Blutman, the floor is yours. In 3, 2, 1, go.
I can't wait to watch Syracuse Pitt on Thursday night. Kyle McCord, Desmond Reed, Holstein, a lot of great players taking the floor. I don't know I'm ready for college football.
That just screamed passion. I've never heard something scream passion harder than what he just did.
He really said it from the tips of his toes right there. And
Boise State plays football night. Like, we got a good week of football. UNLV, Boise State Friday night. Great googly moogly.
Passionate, baby.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And now, speaking of passion, from the depths of her heart, from the tips of her soul, Kayce Smith will talk about High Noon Hard Seltzer.
Did you look at that? That's a new thing.
I hate you. Whatever your computer or phone is a little. It's not gonna do it twice, is it? Wait a minute.
I did it. That's crazy. I'm very passionate about High Noon. Everybody's trying to do things now. Let's see. Once again, we have way more audio listeners and YouTube listeners. Like, what are you guys talking about? We're talking about High Noon, folks. That's what we're talking about. I don't know where you're going to be this weekend. I don't know where you are as you're listening or watching this, but you know what I do know? You should have a High Noon. And I heard Dave say this. I don't know if it was on the rundown or wherever it was, but he hit it perfectly. He was like, during the day, you probably you either like the carbonation or no carbonation. And then at night, you might switch. I personally like the teas when it's real sunny out. Love them. And then maybe at night, you want a little bubbly. You want a little carbonation. So I switch over to the vodkas. Some people love the tequilas, but all I know is that the End Zone pack, it's almost, it feels like it's summer outside, but it's almost the end of fall. It's exclusive. It's going to be gone. The End Zone pack, go get it. Who knows what the winter pack is going to be? I've heard some rumblings of a great new pack. But right now it's the End Zone pack. Go to highnoonspirits.com. Find a pack near you. We are not on the road for the college football show for the first time in a while, Ev. So we're going to be chilling wherever, watching all the games before we go live. And I can assume wherever you're going to be, you're going to have a box and a cooler of High Noon with you.
The great thing about High Noon is whether it's the End Zone pack, whether it's their new pack coming out, High Noon doesn't miss. They don't miss. Every single thing they touch turns to just liquid gold. God bless High Noon.
God bless High Noon. God bless him. Brandon, I have a question for you.
Yeah, hi.
I was just thinking about this because you brought up Liam and passion. What's the most passionate you've ever seen Liam Blutman be about something?
If you've ever watched the man watch football and watch, watch Idaho State's third string deep snapper perfectly thread one right back to the punter, and the punter steps into one and knocks it out the 1 yard line. That guy will get passionate in a heartbeat. Won't you, Blutman?
Yeah, you gotta catch me on the streams that we do when we're watching football. That's where you gotta catch me.
Also, he loves boy bands. All boy bands. He loves 98 Degrees. He loves O-Town.
Backstreet Boys.
He loves Backstreet Boys.
And
he likes NSYNC, but his favorite one is Lance Bass. Weirdly, and he is very, very passionate about boy bands, and he has nothing but boy band posters in his room. His apartment is covered in boy band posters. He's going tonight to a JC Chazé show.
Oh.
So Blutman, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to that after the UTEP Louisiana Tech game. Can't wait.
All right.
I think the most passionate I've ever seen Blutman get is about Lincoln Riley. That's the reason I was trying to think of what's the most hardcore rant, which is obviously so low key in the comparison to the other three of us. I think it's Lincoln Riley.
I think it's got to be UNLV keeping the train on the tracks with Hodge Hall coming in. I think that's the answer.
Yeah, that's probably the answer. Yeah,
good point.
Very much right about that whole situation. Nobody apologized.
The firings got started this week.
Mm-hmm.
Brent Venables fired his offensive coordinator, which is kind of like picking a tick off a rabid dog, a mangy dog. That's not really going to do anything. That team fucking stinks because Brent Venables is not a good coach. Will Hall at Southern Miss got fired. You've had some others. Just made me think, what's coming down the path. Obviously, Florida's probably coming open soon. They've done a decent job of putting the train back on the tracks, but they got Georgia, LSU, and Ole Miss coming up, and Florida looks to come open. West Virginia could come open. Trying to think out loud. I wouldn't rule out Oklahoma coming open if they just completely go in the tank. USC could come open. That's the one that I've heard. Could Purdue come open? These are all jobs that I don't think it's going to be like a gigantic coach moving carousel coming down the line. I know I'm missing an obvious one, so I apologize to anybody out
Auburn,
there.
do you think they would do it to Hugh Freeze or give him another year?
I think he's they're very stupid at Auburn, and they ran out Brian Harsin not because he was going 5-7, but because they didn't approve of his recruiting tactics. Hugh Freeze is doing the dirty shit recruiting, and Hugh Freeze is getting the guys. So I think they'll give him another year. They just flipped a quarterback from Notre Dame who hasn't been committed to Notre Dame in over a year. But they just got him, so I think he'll be fine, and I'm sure there are others. Blutman, am I missing somebody obvious to you?
Malzahn feels kind of obvious. I think
at UCF?
Yeah. I think everyone talks about that.
I don't have my finger on the pulse of UCF enough to know that job's coming open or not.
Apologies. The USC thing, I know you brought them up, but what we talked about off air to stay off air, I think that one is going to open eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of anything like grossly obvious, but I agree with everything you said.
That was just a thought. I didn't even have it planned as a segment. I was just a thought as we.
How long do you think they let Sharon Moore stick around?
They can't do it in a year.
They can't do it. Their hands are tied.
I know, but how long?
At least through the end of next year.
Yeah. But that's definitely, I would say, something that's probably already being talked about to a certain degree.
Is there any way that Billy Napier maybe saves his job or has saved it / can save it? Is there any way?
It would involve winning 2 out of 3, LSU, Ole Miss, and Georgia, and I don't see that world developing.
I was going to say does 1 of 3 get there? Just 1 of 3.
If that one is Georgia, if that one's Georgia, maybe. Like if that one's Ole Miss, he's probably fired already, but because that's second to last game of the year, he's probably already fired at that point. I don't. What's that? Are they 4-3? They're 4-3, right?
My thought process was, and this is me. I'm not like I'm trying to just think with their situation down there. I know there's been like other SEC coaches' names have been thrown out at possibly making a move to that job, so that changes things a little bit. If they have a massive upgrade, just kind of waiting in the wings, handshake agreement behind closed doors, then I'm sure he's cooked. But like a DJ Lagway, if they like believe in him, if he's willing to commit to Napier and stay, does that maybe change things? Yeah, that's my thought process.
I feel very confident. The decision has already been made down there. Like it's just he's a dead man walking at this point, especially with the brutal November coming up. And if you keep a coach because of one player, that is absolutely buying an airplane just to get free peanuts. Like that's just very, very stupid. That's not a good idea. One player is not bigger than the whole program. He's a very good player. That's fine. But you don't tank the next 3 years to keep one guy happy.
Well, and there's also probably a little bit of, and with these big schools, like we know that they tamper and do what else. Like if they know that there's somebody out there, and this is not just for Florida, just for anybody, they know there's a big name that's willing to flirt with the job or willing to take the job, then I would assume that decision gets sped up a little bit. So it really depends on what conversations Florida is having. Like if Billy Napier wins just enough to keep him like without completely being fired, like if he sucks and loses out, fine, whatever. But if there's even like remotely a conversation and they're like, well, this guy says he's going to come, then I would assume that also plays into it too.
But in this world of transfer portal, I'm going to use Lane Kiffin for an example, but just because he's the easiest coach to use. If you were to hire Lane Kiffin next year, he's bringing a quarterback. He's bringing a quarterback with him from that Ole Miss roster, and that's just the world we live in. If whoever you hire worth their salt is probably bringing a guy if you don't already have a guy. So I don't think that would be a worry in the long run. Now, I gave you 2 assignments. Your 2 assignments were, as we head down the stretch of the season, we're turning the halfway point now. How many teams? I asked this flippantly last week. I'm going to ask it seriously now. 2 questions. Number 1. How many teams in this country are truly capable of winning the national championship this year? And I'm not talking about Vanderbilt getting hot and ripping off 10 wins in a row. We all know that's probably just not going to happen. We all know that, God bless Iowa State. I just don't think there's a world Iowa State's getting in there, getting a bye, and marching through these teams. I like what Iowa State's doing. They're good, but let's just all be honest with each other here. Who has the cut and the profile of a national championship team? It's usually not very many. I'll just go around the room. What number did you arrive at? Big Ev.
7.
Blutman.
8.
Kayce.
8.
I had 4 with 3 maybes. So if you want to say the maybes can count, then I have 7 at most. But my maybes, my heart's not really in it that much.
My 8 also has an asterisk. It's really 9, but it's 8 after a game, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just Big Ev, you say yours, and I assume since the numbers are all very close that there's not going to be a whole lot of strays here. But go ahead, Big Ev. You lead us off.
All right. Yeah. Like I said, I have 7, but I think I have 5. I'm like very firm on, and 2 that I put in, but a little reluctantly.
Okay.
Oregon and Ohio State.
Yep.
Georgia and Texas.
Yep.
Clemson. I put in that list. In my firm side, I also put Penn State and Tennessee. I have some. Penn State hasn't really played anyone. Tennessee, obviously their offense leaves some to be desired. I think this is somewhat dependent on Nico taking a little bit, maybe not that full step forward, but a little bit of a step forward. Because I think their defense is that elite that could carry them to some wins. So I'll say that's my 7.
Blutman, you had 8. Who are your 8?
Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, Texas, Miami, LSU, and Clemson. That's 8 of the 9 top-ranked teams right now. The lone team out being Tennessee. I don't think the offense is good enough. I don't know if Nico can improve at a rate rapid enough to go win the national championship. The fringe team there being Miami, I don't know. I don't think the defense is that good, but the offense is more than capable enough of doing it. And Penn State's a big maybe as well, but I think it's fairly wide open. I think the best team in the country is the first half of Georgia against Texas. When the defense is swimming like that, nobody should be able to beat that team.
Kayce, you had 7 or 8?
I had 8.
All right, who were your 8?
I have Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, Penn State, Miami. And then here's a little wrench that I'm going to throw in. I think that the winner of LSU A&M could potentially be on that list. And like Liam said, LSU, which means I think he thinks LSU is going to beat them. The top of the SEC is those 2 teams right now, so I'm going to throw that in. But I'm kind of the same way. There's 5 or 6 that I'm solid in. I do think Miami is on that list because of Cam Ward. And if you have somebody that you think is going to win the Heisman Trophy, and I understand he's not Ashton Genty, but I think that offense is good enough. But in reality, it's those top 4 or 5 that are screaming. But I do think that there's other teams that could be in that mix.
I don't feel like fighting you right now.
What?
I don't feel like fighting right now.
That's fine. You don't have to fight. Like I said, it depends on who wins that game. I mean, it would be very hard going into November if A&M is leading the SEC with no losses, and the only loss they have is to Notre Dame. You can't say that they could be in that mix if they're beating LSU. If people think
no, it's not in the mix. They would be in the playoff mix. I still just. If they're not good enough to beat Notre Dame, are they good enough to win a national title? I just don't know if they're a national title team. That's all. The playoff team, they're certainly in the mix.
I guess it was more because I knew Liam was going to say LSU, and I mean, if LSU loses to A&M, like Blutman, do you still put them in that list?
Well, no, I think he wouldn't at that point, right?
Well, right, but if they're that good and A&M wins, then why wouldn't that be a conversation to be had?
I disagree. I still would have LSU on the list. They would make the playoff with 2 losses. They'd be fine. And the team at the end of the day is still really good on. I love the offense. Garrett Nussmeier doesn't get sacked. I don't think that gets talked about enough. He leads the country. I think he's been sacked 1 time on drop back situations. The offensive line's doing a heck of a job. They're deep at the receiving core. CJ Daniels is finally healthy. The defenses look better post Perkins, and the secondary is getting better. If LSU drops the game at Kyle Field and wins out, so be it. Like, that team is still really good and capable of winning a national championship in a wide open year. Yeah.
See, I'll diverge from this path. I don't think either LSU or A&M. To me, Profile is a potential national title team. I think LSU has the offense. I think the defense is hot right now, but I still don't believe in the defense at a national title level. And I don't believe in A&M's quarterback situation at a national championship level. Both good teams, but I really, when it comes down to it, I really have 4. And I'm taking a leap of faith on 1 because we all had them in there. But the truth of the matter is I've got my 4 is Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State. Those 3, to me, are unimpeachable, especially Oregon and Georgia. They got big wins. Ohio State I still like a lot. And then my 4th is Texas, who everybody had in there. Mm-hmm. But if you really got down to it and really, really searched everything, Texas haven't had to put a win out there that convinces you they're able to beat elite teams. They played one elite team and got their shit pushed in pretty good. I'm going to err on the side of I still think this team is really, really good. They got caught with their pants down and played a very bad game. I think they're better than that. So I keep them in my list of 4, even though my eyeballs are on them. I'm like, I'm watching you, Texas. Like, you better act right from here on out, because I swear to God, I'll pull this car over. Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State is my 4. I think can win the national title. My maybes are Miami, because I think their defense is probably better than it's played the last few weeks. I think they've played through their slump and still won. Penn State, I think, is a maybe national title winner, and Clemson, who is weird in the fact that they played nobody since Georgia. They've killed all of them, and they have the 31-point loss to Georgia. But I believed in the team to begin the year, and I believe in them now. As far as Tennessee goes, that some of you put in there, I don't think Nico is national championship caliber. At this point in his career, I think that offense is kind of really bad. And if Alabama wasn't so soft up the middle, they would have beaten Tennessee handily. But Josh Heupel, credit to him being a good coach, decided he knew what Alabama was soft. He gave it to Dylan Sampson 25 fucking times in the second half, said, go win me a game.
Okay,
but anyway,
I have a question for you.
I know what you're going to ask.
No, I'm not. No, you don't.
Okay.
No, you don't. You don't have a question. You don't know what I'm going to ask. So we all have the same 7, right? And then we all have like a 1 or 2 part. If you had to, like if you had to throw in an 8, like Big Ev threw in Tennessee, Liam threw in LSU, I threw in the winner of A&M LSU, who would be that like one wild card that he would throw in like we have? Is there one?
I would probably pick Tennessee or LSU if you were forcing me to go get my next team. I think the line is above them, but I would pick Tennessee or LSU. LSU has the offense to do it. Tennessee has the defense to do it. If they combine teams, I think they'd win the national title.
If it was the LSU Tennessee national,
if the LSU Volunteers, I'm picking the LSU Volunteers.
Mm-hmm. Tennessee Tigers.
I'm sorry.
LSU was my last team, was my 8th team. They were like the cut line for me. I just think them in Miami, I don't know. And I've been Mr. Miami on this show. Just not in the defense. I just don't think you can get away with that over and over and over again. Eventually you're going to get bit by
yeah.
And you know what's, it's not interesting to us because we've been talking about this. Not one of us even remotely thought about putting a Big 12 team in that list.
No.
Not even close.
But just the playoff list, I got a bunch of.
The playoff list is different, but winning a national title. And I'm interested to see how many, but this is where the Big 12 is so much fun because we have no fucking clue who's going to be out of the Big 12.
Looking forward to that list. I have 3 Big 12 teams can make the playoff list, and I'm sure I'm probably missing somebody. So anyway, let's do some business, and then we'll get to our try to paint the picture of how many teams still have playoff possibilities. Go, Kayce.
DraftKings. So DraftKings is the official partner of Barstool Sports. We know that. The unnecessary roughness parlay did not hit last week, but that means we're due because we've hit a few times. But if you are listening to this, watching this, you're being told about this, and you, for some reason, have not gotten onto DraftKings responsibly and of age, go on to DraftKings right now. Use the promo code RUFF. Bet just $5 on anything, whether you're betting on the Yankees to win the World Series. Ev, I know you'll probably be doing that. And then you get $200 in bonus bets instantly, whether that $5 bet cashes or not. So it's very simple. You just download, deposit $5, bet that $5, instantly $200 in bonus bets for all newbies using code RUFF, ROUGH. October, early November is the best part of the sports calendar, in my opinion. You've got college football, you've got the NFL, you have the NBA starting, you have the World Series. You have all these different things that you can bet on. If you're into the WNBA, whatever, you can bet on all these things. DraftKings, use promo code RUFF. The crown is yours.
Now, it's hard to really quantify exactly how you would do this next thing. The assignment was how many teams still can make the playoff. Now, you have to do a dance here of how many teams are not mathematically eliminated yet versus how many really actually have a chance. Because God bless Vanderbilt. They have 2 losses. I think they're 5-2. I just don't see a world. I don't see a world where that's going to happen at all. So I balance, is it going to happen with can it happen? I'll just use the ACC, for example. Like Duke is 6-1, Syracuse is 5-1. Just don't see that world. Okay, I don't. SMU's 6-1. I could see that world. Mm-hmm. So it's like just balancing what you think of a team with what their record is. Because God bless Syracuse. That's great. I'm glad you're off to a 5-1 start. It's an exciting time in your program, and the guy is recruiting. Everything's good. I don't see it this year. So that's where I'll kind of ease back out on the racetrack and try to start this car. Because Blutman, I'm going to start with you. Did you write down your number of how many teams?
Yep.
Can still have playoff dreams that can come true?
Yeah, 25.
You've got 25. That's an interesting number. Big Ev, what's your number?
I think I had 26.
Wow. Okay. Kayce, how many you got? It's a very clear assignment, Kayce.
No, I was counting also because I did the list. Mine's 22.
22.
22.
Lowest by far, as I also have 26. So that's very the ball knowers might be uniting here because we're all very close. 22 to 26 is not a wide gap.
Wait, no, 23 because I have one. Okay, yeah, 23. The troops. Spoiler.
All right. Let's see. Who had the most? Big Ev? You had 26. You had 25. Okay. Big Ev, just give me your list of 26.
Okay. Obviously, the 7 that I said.
All right. So that is Oregon. That is Georgia. That's Ohio State. That's Texas. That's Tennessee.
Clemson, Tennessee, Penn State.
Clemson, Tennessee, Penn State. All right.
So I did it by conference.
Sure.
For the SEC, I had LSU, Bama, A&M, and then Mizzou with an asterisk because I really don't think they have a shot. But mathematically, they've only lost 1 game. I think they're going to get smoked by Bama. If they beat Bama, they would have a shot. So Mizzou's on there by default, but I don't really believe in them. The other 3 I actually believe really could do it. The ACC, Miami and SMU. Obviously, had Clemson already. The Big Ten, Indiana, I think firmly has a real legitimate shot. Actually,
sure.
I would bet on them at this point to make it potentially. And then I put Illinois, even though their dreams could get crushed this weekend. But listen, they've got some decent wins, only 1 loss. Illinois still has life. If they were to somehow go beat Oregon this week, firmly in it. So I'll have them in for now.
Did you say A&M in the SEC?
Yes. Yeah, A&M definitely has a shot.
All right, continue.
For the Big 12, I pretty much put down every team that has 1 conference loss or less. Because I think it's everyone, because I think they're all alive, and there's some surprises in there. So obviously Iowa State and BYU, they have no losses in the conference, very much alive. The teams that won losses in that conference, or in conference, won losses: Colorado, Kansas State, Texas Tech, and Cincinnati. And I want to say this: I think Cincinnati, real good shot to go into Colorado and win this week. I'm just going to say that, but we'll save that for the Thursday episode. Then the at-large or the group of 5 teams: Boise, Army, Navy, and UNLV. I still give a shot because if they beat Boise, they would very much be in that mix. So I'll throw them in there, but I think Boise probably wins and knocks them out this week. But we'll see. But that's my list.
It's interesting. You had 26. I had 26, and you didn't say 5 of the ones I have. Blutman.
Really?
Yeah, unless I just missed.
I think I might have miscounted too, but
well, he had. I certainly just going off the Big 12. I was much harsher on my cutoff. I have BYU, Iowa State, and Kansas State as potential playoff teams. I don't think Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Colorado are a playoff. I don't see it happening for them at all. So I cut those 3 out. I don't think he said Ole Miss unless I just missed them. Okay. I think Ole Miss still has a shot. They got Georgia at home. If they go 10-2, they can sneak in. I don't think they will, but I think they're good enough to still pay attention to there. I had the same 4 Big Ten teams, Ohio State, or more than that. I had Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, and Penn State, and Illinois. I have Illinois as well. Let's see. He didn't have Pitt in the ACC.
No, I just don't see it. I think they get absolutely dog walked by Clemson. I just don't see it.
Okay. Am I mistaken in that Liberty could hang around long enough to sneak into this?
They're on my list.
That spot, like they could just, Army and Navy both take a loss. UNLV already got a loss. If Boise State takes another loss, maybe Liberty just hangs around long enough to steal it. I got them written down there, and then Notre Dame as well. So that's
a Notre Dame. Notre Dame's that's a mess up by me.
Blutman, you have anybody that hasn't been said yet?
Yeah. I had Army, Navy, and Tulane out of the American. I think Tulane's still alive for a Group 5 spot. Enough could happen. They could pick up good wins and win out, and they'd pick up 2 good wins, actually, with the insured. Clemson, Miami, SMU. I had Pitt, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State was all I had for the Big 12.
Yeah.
Indiana, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Liberty, Notre Dame, Boise State, UNLV, A&M, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, Mizzou, Texas, Bama. But don't believe in a few of those teams at all.
And Kayce, anything that you've got that we don't have?
No, I mean, I think I might have a little less. So obviously the Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Miami, Clemson, Penn State, LSU, A&M, Notre Dame, BYU, Iowa State, Tennessee, Army, Navy, Colorado, Alabama, SMU, Indiana, Kansas State.
Okay, so it's around. It's reasonable to say it's between 22 and 27 teams.
And it's also like when you talk about the Big 12, like we all threw like 3 or 4 Big 12 teams in there. It's going to come down to, like if it was an expanded playoff, fine. But I think only one team from the Big 12 is going to end up getting in. But I just don't know who's going to win the Big 12. That's why that's there. It's not necessarily that I think all of those Big 12 teams are like playoff caliber teams. It's like they have to put at least one in there. And I just don't know who that's going to be.
Now, doesn't it feel better to be sitting here on October 22nd talking about 27 teams? We got a month coming up, the last 6 games of the season, and we have to sort out 27 teams for 12 spots instead of sitting here on October 22nd, and we're looking at 6 teams for 4 spots. It feels a lot better to me. It makes the rest of the season matter so much more than it ever mattered, and it's the exact opposite of the argument people made. Oh, the regular season won't matter anymore. I got a fucking November full of games that are going to fucking matter in my hand.
And
full of them.
And the puzzle pieces, like we've been talking about, exactly like how do you look at a 2-loss SEC team versus a 1-loss Big 12 team? Like all of those things are going to come into play. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And I honestly, when I started making this list, I was like, there are way more teams that I think could make the playoff than if you would have asked me like to not make a list like on the spot, I've been like, I don't know, like 16 teams. No, we're looking at closer to 30 for some of you guys.
And if you just look at the SEC for an example, you could have a world where you have like maybe 1-11-1 team and like 5 10-2 teams.
It's crazy. Like
Mizzou could lose to Alabama, go 10-2. Alabama could win out, go 10-2. LSU could beat A&M and then lose to Alabama, they go 10-2. I think these are all right, by the way.
Ole Miss could beat Georgia, and both of them
10-2. That makes them both 10-2. Like there's a world where the committee is looking at 6 SEC teams that are 10-2, and like we can only take 3 of them, we can only take 4 of them, or something like that.
Well, also, and I mean, we keep kind of skipping over this to a certain degree because like we obviously look towards the playoff, which we should, but like without divisions in the Big Ten, and with that, and I know the Big Ten's a little bit more set, but like the SEC championship, like having to figure out who plays in the SEC championship, like that right now is crazy because it's like we don't have the East and the West, so the whole thing is just. I love it. It's just like this college football porn.
I just think how could people have saw like the expansion and think that the regular season would be watered down? All it does is give more life to it. Think about some of the games, like even a game this week, Mizzou, Alabama, loser goes home. Your season's over. Bama 3 losses, you're done. Mizzou 2 losses with that schedule, done. Even Georgia and Ole Miss in a few weeks. Ole Miss is going to be fighting for their lives. And if there was a 14 playoff, that would have been kind of an irrelevant game for them, at least. It would have been relevant for Georgia because they had to win and keep going. But Ole Miss is going to be literally playing for their season in that game.
Maybe. Ole Miss has a trip to Arkansas the week before, and it's
all right. No, fair enough.
Danger time. And Buddy, Sam Pittman, I swear to fucking God, dude. If you drive the stake through their heart, I will be a Sam Pittman guy forever.
You'll bury the beef?
I can't bury him. I mean, that would take weeks. But my God, Sammy boy, Sam Town, look at me. If you pull it, I'll kiss him right on the mouth. That's all I'm saying.
He'll get emotional with that.
I
honestly,
don't even want to talk about it.
You know how it's like, you live long enough to be the villain type of thing, or whatever the saying is. Like, there are very few things on this podcast that would surprise me at this point, because we've been together for so long. You turning and loving Sam Pittman after the shit that you've been through would be an all-time plot twist. All time.
Anyway, I'm just setting up next week's game.
Now, Brandon, I have another question for you along those lines, because again, we're all petty. We're pro petty. Maybe not Liam. He's too sweet. What if Oklahoma beats Ole Miss? Are you going to like Venables?
Oh, I can't even.
Oh, that'd be even better. That's even sweeter.
I guess the only question there is, Kayce, what if unicorns came and and dragons like that? That's just cannot possible. That's not possible.
If you're saying that you will love Sam Pittman after the hate that you have for Oklahoma deep, deep in your heart, and the hate that you have for Brent Venables,
I'll buy 2 horses and name 1 Boomer and 1 Sooner.
Real ones?
Real horses. I will have real horses. Anyway, let's who's our second partner?
Pork rinds. You got some around you? I don't know. Can I please say this? And this is something little inside baseball, inside Barstool. Ev, last week when I got to the Chicago office, I walked in and I was starving. And if there's anywhere I want to go in the office, it's to Brandon Walker's desk, because I know that man's going to have food. I know he's going to have pork rinds, and he's going to have protein shakes. He's going to have all of it. And because the upfronts were last week, they were all gone. And I was very, very sad. I was like, this is crazy. I can actually see the floor. And he was like, don't worry about it. I got it all in my car. And we went out to the car, and he reached in and handed me a bag of pork rinds. And I was so happy. I was like, of course this man would not let them hide his pork rinds. They're going to be right in his car. It was like, I don't know, 7:00 in the morning. And he just kind of reached it, opened the trunk, and just handed me food. And I was like, this is such a Brandon Walker move. But I thanked you for it, because Brandon, I was hungry and I needed protein. Pork rinds has protein. He had it all in there. Kind
of put me on blast there, but yeah, they came through and said, clean up this office. We got people coming through. Clean up this office. And I was like, all right. I tried to hide it behind my desk. They wouldn't go for that. So one day I just took all my food out to my car and I just stuffed it in there. And I said, all right, when the day's over, it's coming back in. But yeah, I had my pork rinds out in the car for a while.
No, it was perfect though, because I knew the office, like I knew, like obviously at the upfronts, like I knew how clean it was going to be. I didn't realize like how clean it was going to be to like take away Brandon Walker's food supply from underneath his desk.
Yeah.
Those pork rinds, they hit. So I appreciate that. Porkrinds.com, the Southern Recipe pork rinds, spicy dill, but all the flavors are great. Find your crunch time hero at porkrinds.com. We love them. We love them. And Brandon, he's got them in his car. So if you happen to see him on the road, don't ask him anything, but just know they're back there.
Is there any news items we need to hit here, Liam, before we get to who's up the most, who's down the worst, and who's blah, 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 blah?
I mean, there's pretty significant injury at Indiana with Curtis Rourke, so.
I didn't. What's he looking at?
He's not playing this week and probably not playing next week, so he'll be back for Michigan game, but he's going to miss 2 pretty important games.
Who they got the next 2 weeks?
Washington and Michigan State on the road next week.
Those are not small. This is not a small development.
But yeah, Taven Jackson's going to be QB1 for him for a bit. Curtis Rourke's fingernail off his thumb was plastered in a Nebraska defender's helmet.
We can't take that up.
No, I don't know. He got surgery. Like, it's pretty serious.
Okay. All right. Hey, tell me the book on Taven Jackson.
Taven Jackson kind of improved drastically from last season. Looks a lot better. He likes to. He throws a decent touch ball to the end zone. I think he had a nice throw last week. Could run a bit. You're not getting those pro throws that Rourke can make. You're not going to see a lot of the back shoulder stuff. It's going to be more, let's run the ball, get those for sure yards, and set Taven for success. Just let him be a bit competent. They'll try and overdo it, but I think he's good enough to get it done.
All right. So we look all around this country. Big Av, who do you think in this big wide world of ours is up the most right now?
I'm gonna have to say, fuck it. I'm gonna say Army. Army's up the most.
Love
This is
that.
a lot of chalk out there. I'll let you guys take it. Army, to me, they obviously haven't played anyone, and I understand that. I respect that and I appreciate that. But I think they're doing to teams what really good teams do, and they are just pummeling these teams, just beating the brakes off them. And I think the fact that they get Notre Dame second is helpful to them. I think that the fact that they have to go through Navy first, especially now, you can argue the opposite. You could say the fact that they get to see the triple option like a first time and then a second time, you could say that caters Notre Dame. I think Army is so well coached with Jeff Monken. I think that helps them kind of pivot off that. And I think getting to see the way Notre Dame reacts to it, I think can help them. And just, I mean, the season they're having, I've been saying all year, champion for them, that I think they're going to beat Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame's got a really tough test in Navy first. So who knows? Maybe they lose to both. Who knows? But Army's just an incredible spot right now. They have a quarterback that legitimately should be on like Heisman ballots, a legit contender for that spot. I'm not saying he should win it, but I think he's putting himself in a real spot, Bryson Daly, that he could be invited to New York, which would just be like unprecedented. Like if someone had said that to you 3 months ago, you would have said they were crazy. Yeah. So for them to just be in this spot right now, ranked legitimately, no fluke, no nonsense, just pummeling their schedule, and having a real chance to make that G5 spot. Army's way up right now. Shout out the Black Knights.
Shout out Captain Cons.
No.
Yes.
Blutman, so this is not a Captain Cons podcast. It's a Fuck Cons podcast.
No, it's not.
A team Fuck Cons. Blutman, who's up the most?
I miss being able to get Army at plus money earlier in the year like we got for the Dog of the Week parlay when they played FAU. Nonetheless, up the most has to be Kirby Smart's ego. I mean, this guy's just out there crushing it. Oh, ain't nobody give us a chance against Alabama, fellas. And then they try to rob us with these calls. Oh, my goodness. Kirby Smart was playing the hits. The Georgia fellow who's got the why not us eye black on. This stuff is ridiculous. And little old George is playing good football, and it's just it warms my heart to see him playing so well. I'm so glad that this program has finally figured things out. Oh man, good for Kirby. He's got it going.
Kayce,
I threw my hands up in the surrender cobra because I was like, I literally had that quote pulled up, the Kirby Smart quote. He was like, the fastest coach to reach 100 wins, but I'll pivot since Liam took that. I'm going to say Oregon because, Oregon, obviously now they're the number one team in the country. They had that massive win over Ohio State. And the whole question going into that game was, has Oregon played anybody? Why is Dan Lanning? Why have they not beat the shit out of people? What's going on with Dylan Gabriel? And while it didn't matter what happened last week for them, they didn't play. Like the fact that like Texas lost the way that they did, like Oregon fans are now sitting on the top, like, hey, we won the big game that we needed to win thus far. Like going into November, they beat Ohio State. They're sitting there and they're probably like, okay, like we're on top. We deserve to be on top. And, Dan Lanning has people changing rules. And like Dan Lanning is just like, they're on top of the world right now because Texas was taken down. And until Oregon's taken down, why wouldn't they be up the highest? But Liam, I do agree with you. Kirby Smart, he's got those men thinking that nobody believed in fucking Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, they were only picked to win, what, 4 or 5 games this year, not even sniffed the Boca Raton Bowl, so good for them.
I think are they all 3-star recruits or just most of them 3-star recruits?
But
most of them are 3 stars, and they're not even recruiting in the hotbeds anymore. They got kids coming in from Alaska, Vermont, and Maine. It's truly amazing.
He does this every year, though, and like the players with the eye black, like, why not us? Like, listen, they buy into it. Like, it's fucking stupid, but they buy into it. But I mean, come on. But I'll take Oregon and Dan Lanning and Dylan Gabriel.
I'll go off the beaten path a little. I'll almost get all the way out to the Pacific Northwest, but I'll stop in beautiful Boise, Idaho. How about the Boise States, huh? How about Boise State this year? I know they didn't have to do much. Were they off the other day? They were off the other day, right?
They had yes.
This isn't based on what they did last week. This is more based on the fact that 15 years ago when they had that big run, most of like the first 75% of that run was trying to prove they belonged and trying to get respect and trying to prove they are one of the best teams in the country. And by the time they really got that established, they started to fall off a little bit. Like it took them long enough to get marquee games and get everybody to play them and all that stuff. So that run, which was awesome, Kellen Moore and all those guys, that run set up what would come later. Because right now, after going down for a couple of years, they're back up, and you've got a Boise State team that is comfortably in the top 25 in a world where the top 12 teams now, not the top 4, this is an accessible world for the Boise States of the world. This is an accessible playoff for the Boise States of the world. They're in good shape. Their biggest win is a loss. They have a 3-point loss to the number 1 team in the country. Ohio State couldn't beat Oregon. Boise State almost beat Oregon. They have a 3-point loss. Or if Oregon goes undefeated or stays at the top all year, they only look better. They got probably, I would say, one of the 3 biggest games this week is Boise State UNLV. I don't think that's hyperbole. They're in a marquee spot, and they have the best player in the country so far. All eyes are on Boise every week to see this guy play football. That doesn't come around. Comes around a lot for Georgia. It comes around a lot for Ohio State. Doesn't come around too often for the Boise States of the world. It is a great fucking time to be a Boise State Bronco.
I didn't love Ashton Genty just being like, hey, like talking to fans or whatever, and they're like, hey, what NFL teams you want to go through? He's going through all the NFL teams. He's like, oh, I wouldn't want to play here. Oh, I'd play there. I didn't like that.
Why?
You can't be out there. You got to think of front offices, scouts, etc. will look at every minor detail that is happening. They're not the Chicago Bears stuff where he's like, I wouldn't want to play in Chicago. It's too cold. They already got DeAndre Swift, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to like those answers. They're not going to like that. If they're drafting you, they want you to be better than the DeAndre Swifts of the world. They don't want to hear that you won't want to play for a team because it's a little too cold. They don't want to hear, oh, yeah, I'd play for the Kansas City Chiefs to compete for a Super Bowl every year, and then talk about the Cowboys and like, just, you shouldn't be doing that. That's just my personal preference. Is not it's Boise State's biggest season in a long time. It's the biggest season a group of 5 players had in so long, and shattering records and getting close to touching what Barry Sanders had set. Don't be out there playing the streaming game, and I don't like that. I don't like that, and trying to make it about. I don't like that.
Is Boise, Idaho sneaky warm?
Like, I was going to say that, Brent.
Idaho's very cold.
I thought it was there.
I'm looking at the average temperatures. So I would think the average temperature in Chicago in December is 25. I'll look up that in a minute. Actually, who's got their phone on them?
I got it. What do you want?
Kayce, average temperature Chicago December, please. Because the average temperature in Boise in October is a high of 65, low of 40. The average in November is 49 and 31, and the average in December is 38 and 24. So what you got for Chicago?
November is 50 and 39 the low. December is 37 and 27.
Okay, well, that was a bullshit excuse because Boise's just as cold as Chicago. What's he talking about?
I don't know. And I just, like, I know it's a super, super boomer take from me, but I just...
Say super, super boomer again. Do it better this time.
Super, super boomer take from me. I just, I don't like... and like grow your brand and everything, I get it, but your play on the field speaks for it a lot more than going on stream like A3 viewers and answering Lil Timbo 12's talk chat message where he's like, hey Ashton, would you want to play for 49ers? And then he's just like, no, I don't want to play for 49ers. I got too many rhymes. Like it's a boomer take, I get it, but golly.
Also, if you're a running back in the draft, you can't look at who they have on their team because those guys just might not be there anymore.
Also, I was going to say, Ashton Genty might be better than DeAndre Swift right now.
He is. So it's a lose-lose for him. You can't win from that situation. And I like what he said about the Travis Hunter stuff. He's kind of just like
downplaying it. Yeah,
let him talk about it. I don't care, but yeah, I don't know.
You know, NFL teams
Dangerous
notoriously
game.
also like bring binders of all the shit that you've said. And like, if like the Bears per se, like wanted to draft him and they're like, so why didn't you want to play for us? Like, that's probably not something you need on paper.
Especially a team that have like top 15 draft capital. And it's just like, be very cognizant of everything you're doing. Every minor detail matters, and don't throw money away because a 13-year-old in your stream was like, hey, what NFL teams do you want?
Oh, that? That's my Indiana football koozie right here. It says unfiltered Signetti. Indiana
I love that
sent me
koozie.
a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I
That's
didn't know that you
great
could.
koozie.
I didn't know you could see that. I apologize. I don't think they sent Blutman anything though. That's weird.
They offered, but I didn't because I don't drink.
This is water.
Yeah, I've never. Well, I'll be honest. I never understood that. I just like grabbed the water.
But it says it looks like a cigarette pack, and it says unfiltered Signetti.
Is an issue, but yeah, well, not an issue. But
Kayce,
I never understood the koozie game. I've never understood that.
To put that on a quote card. Kayce, do we have another piece of business?
We do. And so speaking of money, Rocket Money,
Yep.
They help us handle our money. And right now we're in peak time where, you're buying maybe some subscriptions for different games, whether you're watching the NFL and you want Sunday Ticket, or you've got all the different, everything you could possibly subscribe to right now, you probably are. And Rocket Money keeps track of all of that. They can go cancel your unwanted subscriptions, and you can go into the app and you can not only see everything that you're subscribed to, even just from your iPhone, like if you accidentally do a free trial of something, it's all there. They will cancel it for you, which is massive, but it also helps you budget every single month. And if for some reason there's a bigger, and I put it in air quotes, like a bigger purchase than you're used to, it will alert you so you can go make sure to say exactly what it's for and make sure it was you. And the best part is the app is free. So go to rocketmoney.com/rough. This is one of those that I was using long before they became a friend of the podcast, because it really does help kind of budget. It helps you realize exactly where everything's going. But more importantly, it'll do a lot of the hard lifting for you. They even do things like if you, for some reason, forget to pay your credit card, if you've got some late fees, they can go and fight those late fees if you pay the next day. So Rocket Money is really on top of the game, Brandon. And I have one child. You have 4 children. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Christmas, December, that it's just gonna start hitting me a little bit harder now that I've got a son, and I can imagine Rocket Money lets you know exactly where you can allocate that money come December.
Yeah, Rocket Money's going to be real confused come December when all my money's just gone. And I hope they have a plan to put it back together.
It is very humbling when I get the alert, because it'll just like pop up like a text message. It'll be like, hey, we have noticed an unusually large transaction. Yeah. And I'm like, no, that was me. But thank you, Rocket Money, because I need to be held accountable. And again, it's a great app to just kind of have all your finances in one place.
No shit, Rocket Money. I noticed it too. I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
Yeah, no, it was for sure me. And thank you for reminding me, but also thank you for reminding. There's like a sneaky feature. It like tells you how much money you have in your bank account, but then it also takes like everything else into consideration. So it's like, here's how much money you have, and then here's what you actually have. Because if you have a house, if you have cars, whatever. So it's a great way to just have it all right in front of you. There's no guessing. Rocketmoney.com/rough. Just get your finances in order. And they do it for free. So why not?
All right. Who is down the baddest? Who's down the worst?
I got a good one.
You know what? Talk that shit then. You go first.
Did you see what Kaylen DeBoer said about the speeches after a loss?
No, I didn't see it, but I know that it's just a long, slow march to the unemployment grave for Mr. DeBoer. So what did he say?
Here's the headline of the article that I saw was Kaylen DeBoer makes a startling admission after loss to Tennessee that should concern Alabama fans. Now, I've been in this game long enough to know that if that is a headline, Alabama fans are down bad. But this man said that he is, and I quote, not good at giving speeches after a loss. I told them that these are not speeches that I'm good at. You got to look inward first and make sure that everything you're doing is right. Anyone that you sense that has a type of questioning, you got to make sure you bring it with them. The thing that I know that with our guys is there are enough to know exactly who you are talking about and where it eats at them. We got to continue to mesh the vets with the new guys and the ones that continue to understand what the program stands for and is all about. I don't feel if you're an Alabama fan and you read something like that, you're very fucking happy, because there's no way that Nick Saban would come into a loss that they absolutely should not have lost and say, well, I'm just not good at this, guys. Let's look inward and remember what this program is about. Sir, you are now following the best coach of all time in college football. You got to come with some fire. And even if you don't, for some reason, have the fire in the locker room, because obviously players can sense that, you can't then roll out in front of the media and be like, guys, I'm just not good at this. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell the guys because I'm not good at giving speeches. Alabama fans in the Kaylen DeBoer era, and like Brandon, I know you called this, like, you just can't say that if you are the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. You cannot say you're not good at delivering speeches after a loss. Like, I don't know, look inward. Look inward. On what planet Do you want to hear that your head coach is in a locker room saying, guys, let's look inward, let's mesh, remember what this program's about? Fuck that. I just can't believe he admitted it out loud.
It's listen, I'm not always right. I'm right most of the time. But if I could have taken a picture of what I said about Alabama's season, it would not be any more clear than it has turned out. That didn't make sense. I don't care. No. Big Ev, who's down the worst?
It has to be Oklahoma. Huh. They should honestly, as a form of torture for like prisoner, like what are they called? Like prisoners of war. They should just lock them in a room and make them have Oklahoma and Michigan play a game of football and just have to watch it on repeat forever.
Oh God!
I'm going to talk about cover your eyes, but I'll take a shot at Michigan anytime I can. But Oklahoma, they're just so. We talked about fire the offensive coordinator. How bad does it have to be when your head coach in a press conference, I believe his exact quote was, the offense this year has been an abomination or something along those lines. Some people are saying credit Tim for admitting that. I say, how bad does it have to be for you to just say that like it's so bad you can't even like mask it for, this guy, we've had balls and bounce this way. We want to call some new plays, do some new things, some new personnel. He's just throwing the white flag. He's just like, no, our offense is awful. They stink. This team is so bad. I don't know how you don't fire Venables after this year. I think you have to. I think you just have to. Yeah, Oklahoma is, to me, truly down the worst.
I agree. I don't see how you keep him. Oklahoma fans will swear up and down that he has fixed the defense. The defense ain't very good either. It's just good compared to the offense. I think he was a bad hire to start with. I think last year he went a soft 10-2 that was not real, and now they're paying for it right now, and they're going to pay for it as long as he coaches there. Again, if the offense sucks, and I know they've had wide receiver injuries, I get that. You know who else has had injuries on their offense? Every fucking team in the country. So there's that. But that has nothing to do with your offensive line being terrible despite having a lot of good recruits. It's still like you have a 5-star quarterback who hasn't looked anywhere close to it. You got big-time 5-star running backs that don't look anywhere close to it. Like, nothing is good on that team. Blevin, who's down the most?
I have 2. The first one is interactive. I just sent the text. A full-out brawl happening while South Dakota State's QB2 rushes for a massive touchdown, starts hitting the boom. Full-out brawl happening during that is very funny. I'm down bad because I didn't bring this up on Saturday night, and I feel foolish for doing it. So I have to bring this back to the table. That was very funny.
Absolute chaos.
And your second one?
It's a grown man bringing the boom amidst the brawl. The second one, 3-2-1 ain't off the hook. I want to make that clear. This clown, Ventor ADJ. Whoa, you're picking the wrong fight, bud. You can't fake a poop eating video. You can't do that. Not in this climate, not in this stage, not when Florida State is so down bad. You can't play with the fire that has been fueled. They've lost to Georgia Tech. They've lost to Boston College, Memphis, SMU, Clemson, Duke. They're going to lose to Miami. They'll probably lose out. They'll probably lose to Charleston Southern at this point. And the blood's on your hands too now, bud. You cannot fake that video and then apologize for it and then use charity as an excuse. It doesn't work like that. Florida State will never be relevant again. It's Ventor ADJ's fault. It's 3-2-1 Noel's fault. And the rest of the fan base doesn't deserve it. You're playing a dangerous game that you shouldn't be involved in.
Are we going FIU plus 5.5, Big F?
Yeah,
Vice night. It's Vice night.
Already, yeah. I took the under too.
It's Vice night. There's a yacht that will be on the field, either behind the end zone like the Lambos were.
Wait, do we like that or La Tech?
I took the under in that game also.
I kind of like La Tech. I like La Tech.
If I had to bet it, I'd probably bet La Tech. The Sam Houston game, Houston's quarterback is hurt. If you watched them last week, the second Watson went out, they were totally different as an offense. The backup was really bad.
And I think I'm going to go.
The issue is Florida International so bad against the run.
I'm going to go Celtics.
State wants to assert the run, so they could mask the quarterback.
I'm going to go Celtics and La Tech. All right, who's down the most? Who's down the baddest? And we're going to go back to back here because I am beginning to think this segment we could potentially have the same winner every single week because I don't think it's ever happened before when in one season a team has a legit argument for best team in the country and possibly could have been that if their quarterback hadn't gotten hurt, and then the next year they are absolutely the very worst Power 5 team in America, Florida State. The levels of down bad they are mining right now, the levels of down bad they're seeing is historic. We've never, ever seen it. This is you don't talk about recruits. This team is loaded with recruits and transfers that was supposed to keep this from happening. This is a team that had an argument to be in the playoff last year. It's a team that their quarterback didn't hurt, had a national championship caliber roster last year, and now they are uncompetitive. They are not offensively. They are not competitive. And you say, well, they lost their quarterback. He sucked too. Like there's nothing about this team that is appealing. There's nothing about this team that is likable. There's nothing about this team that's fun. And you want to talk about a job opening? Mike Norvell going from 13-0 to fired is otherworldly. You can't even think about that. But you better start thinking about it because what the fuck is this? What is it? We've never, ever, ever, ever seen this. Ever. We've seen bad teams. Sure. Fine. We've never seen this. And Florida State, I feel bad for you because you're down as bad as you can get. You're down so bad you don't even feel down bad anymore.
They're just depressed. They're just like living in depression. And also, like, we talked about it all off season. They spent all off season trying to sue people for what happened. Like, you know how embarrassing that is? Like, you really thought that and they were screwed last year. Fine. We don't have to run that back. Like, you spent all off season. Oh, we're going to sue this. We're going to sue that. And then you look like quite literal dog shit. Like, that is bad.
Yeah.
Bad, bad, bad.
All right. Do we have any more business?
We don't.
Okay, good. So that's where we end off. And we'll of course talk on
Can I say one crazy thought that I had during the show?
I'd be mad if you didn't.
I don't know if someone had said this before. It's been talked about one of the G5 teams like not being the 12 seed and being higher than that.
Yeah.
Is there a world where two G5 teams can make the playoff?
I was thinking about it.
Is there a world? I'm throwing crazy spitball.
I was thinking about it, and there should be a world.
Is there a world?
So the only combination of teams I can see is if it's Boise, which marches through and has the 3-point loss to number 1, and the winner of or they don't even play yet, but whoever goes undefeated out of Army Navy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's my.
I think that combination of two teams could potentially do it, right?
That was my thought process. That two maybe could, if Boise wins out and their one loss is on the road to Oregon by
3.
And then you have an undefeated Army Navy who in that situation would have beaten Notre Dame and beaten the other one twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think there's crazy. I think that's highly more likely than two Big 12 teams.
The only problem with that, the twice thing, is I think the playoff is set before they play the second time. Am I correct?
Oh,
I could be wrong. I think that they said that. I think because this was like talked about a year or two ago when they were talking about expansion. It's like, in a world, if Army or Navy were to be in the playoff, what do we do about Army-Navy game? It was kind of like, what are the chances it will happen? Like, whatever. But I think it was talk like that they would then wait for Army-Navy to be played to make the decision.
But if the second Big 12 team, the second best Big 12 team is 10-2 and loses the conference championship game to whoever, would you rather have that 10-3 team, or would you rather have the combination of one loss Boise State with the Oregon thing and undefeated Army/Navy? I think you'd want the G5 combination.
Definitely.
Definitely. Especially with a win over Notre Dame and the fact that each other are so strong. So you basically would have two big wins out of it, two top 25 wins.
And you have like a player like Ashton Genty who's just like electric.
And think about this. An undefeated Army-Navy theoretically knocks Notre Dame out.
Yeah.
That knocks another. I mean, that opens up another spot. But anyway, we'll talk about all of that going forward because that is not a crazy thing to think about. But again, it underscores the real thing here, Big F. The possibilities that lay before us right now, the games that we're going to care about, the number of scenarios at play is so far and above what we've had, and it's a whole new world of possibilities. It is a world where 15, 20 games are going to matter on a Saturday as opposed to fucking 3. It's perfect. It's great. It's chaos. It's college football, and I'm done. My voice is out. That's unnecessary roughness.